Okay, we're recording.
We're live again?
We're live
We're
again.
live again. Okay, so here from the Executive Nashville Studios. August 6th, really just an hour and 20 minutes.
August 6th again.
Yeah, from the first podcast, Dadcast.
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 Dadcast episode 2.
There you go, episode 2. And a string of who knows how many we can get in a span of my 3-day visit.
And beyond.
And beyond, we can do this
remotely.
virtually, right? Yeah, just need a little technology on my end. You're set up nicely.
You can do it from your phone. This will continue, folks.
I can do it from my phone now.
Yeah, that's technology for you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Phones do so much and make phone calls.
And right on top of it,
Yeah.
as if it needs more.
Everything else. So you had touched on this either in the last
Wait, we didn't really
podcast
introduce ourselves. This is the Divine Realignment Podcast. My name is Julia Wesley. I'm a professional medium and channel for my guides, and we like to talk about a life purpose. But today I have my dad, Mark, with us, and he's going to interview me or just ask questions for the Dadcast. And this will probably be a somewhat regular occurrence because he's got a voice made for radio.
Try not to interrupt me. But yeah, we should label the darn thing so people know what.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. Anyways.
So it was either on the end of the last episode.
Yeah.
But we can say that now because we're on our second
2
episode. You brought up singularity.
We can talk singularity. I was talking about synchronicity.
Synchronicity. Okay. Similar, but not similar. But
it sounds very similar.
Yeah, it does. It might have been on the podcast, might have been in between, but I had bumped into this concept 2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I guess in my mind, I get them both a little bit mixed up. But basically, I think it was a YouTube thing. You know, I love to watch YouTube folks at night before I go to bed, and it's just my little 20 minutes of me time where I'll dive into any subject that I think is neat, and a lot of it's crazy, but I find a lot of people bring up a lot of good points, different viewpoints, in the subjects. But anyway, I came across this, the singularity, synchronicity, and I can't remember the source, whom presented it. I might have even read a few articles on it, but correct me if I'm wrong or if you agree or disagree. But the premise behind it is there is a sort of a common reoccurring thread to things that occur in your life, and maybe even more if you start to pay attention to them. Where this synchronicity, this syncing of feelings, events, emotions, numbers will come into play into your life, and the oneness of us not quite realizing yet that we really are on the same drumbeat, but we do a really great job of trying to play the downbeat when we're on the upbeat.
Yeah.
And it was shocking to me to hear this because it made a lot of sense. I wish I could speak eloquently on it because you just jogged my memory out of nowhere for this. And it was noticeable in my life in small little things. Like I might look at the clock and it'd be all ones. Mm-hmm. Or it would be all threes. And I would take note of that because it made mention of that in the article I read for the sake of the argument. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a bunch of hooey, and then I look over and it's 333.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Again, easy to explain that away in my mind, and then it would keep happening. Not every single time, but I would notice it, and I'm like, okay, did I miss this my whole life? Or is it now that I'm tuned into it a little bit, am I picking up on it, And of course it goes much deeper than just, the numbers on the clock lining up. And it was something that I probably meant to get back into. Yeah. Like with many things, I have an interest in 35 things at once, and inevitably something's got to fall off a ledge. And
sure.
I get back around to it when I do.
Yeah.
And the singularity thing that I came across spoke to, and again, correct me if you disagree, about how we really are all connected. And, there's a solid start, a solid, I'll just say an end for our physical life. But in between, what we might consider to be very disassociated from everyone else, removed from everywhere else. Emotions, feeling, actions are actually connected in a pattern behind the scenes that you don't realize until you start looking for the connections. Almost like, how it's like a cops and robber movie, and they finally find like the secret hideaway of the crazy guy, and he's got like a wall with all the string, like pointing from, making all the connections and all that. You know what I mean? It's like that. You're like, holy smokes, it makes sense now. So when you brought that up, those two things popped in my head.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you encounter threads of that in mediumship?
Yeah. Synchronicity would be sort of impossible without the concept of singularity. The idea that everything is now and we're all originating from a single point of origination. Mm-hmm. The same creation, we're all energy. Okay. I come into contact with synchronicity frequently. In fact, my guides, I use numerology frequently.
Anything today?
Yeah, a 111 actually.
Really?
I got today.
Well,
I've been getting a lot of 222s.
Significance in the numbers? Or
there is a significance in the numbers. If there's like sacredscribes.com or something, this lady Joanne, who for some reason, if you're into numerology, like you find her. Mm-hmm. She is awesome, and she has done like every number you can possibly think of, and there's a meaning behind it, and your guides will work with you. If you attribute a meaning to the repeating numbers 222, then they'll pick up on that. And then anytime you see 222, that's what they'll be trying to communicate with you. But
so
if you're looking,
an individual meaning to
it can,
you.
It can, yeah. Okay. But if you're looking for a good place to start, like just Google what 222 means, But they do communicate that way to me frequently, and I find that they use more synchronistic stuff, like hardline physical, like 3D stuff, when they're trying to wake me up to a concept that I have not opened my mind to yet. So it's sort of like, hey, like 222 is like, hey, keep going, you're almost there, like things are happening energetically, you're going to start seeing manifesting physically soon. So yeah, in mediumship how would you do that? Synchronicity. I most often see it with my guides when they're communicating with me. Okay. I don't know if I necessarily, sometimes in a reading, you'll get, like, for some reason I keep seeing pennies, and they'll be like, oh my God. Or you'll be like, I keep seeing this, like, gorgeous, like, butterfly. And you're like, a butterfly landed on my car this morning. And so it's like, that could be a sign from your loved ones. Most often, it's not something that pops up most frequently for me in a reading, so to say. But in my personal life, I get it all the time.
Interesting, right? How it, I guess once you realize that something like that is out there, and if you put a little mental energy towards it, it sort of has a way of blossoming on its own.
Yeah, right.
And I have to admit that when I do things like this, I'm a world-class second guesser for myself. I mean, I can second guess myself like no one's business. And I'm like, all right, is it just that it's happening, or am I just accidentally paying attention to it and hitting it lucky?
Yeah. I think you have to come back to this idea that nothing is luck in the world. Mm-hmm. Everything happens. People hate it when you say everything happens for a reason.
I mean, you really feel everything.
Yeah? Everything happens because there's some
purpose
part
driven,
of you.
Is what you're saying. Events, circumstances.
It's sort of intention driven. What level of consciousness are you operating from? Mm-hmm. Life is kind of a choose your own adventure. Yeah. Kind of a thing. And you may have a certain set of parents. You may have a certain gender identity. You may have black skin, white skin, things like that. And this isn't to invalidate anyone's experiences or to say that racism's not real, because it definitely is, or to say any of those things. But the way that you go about life, how you choose to interact with something is how you're going to experience it. So that's kind of where that is. Okay. And that really can be weaponized in a way. I feel like I'm probably getting off track a little bit, but I think it bears saying that that's not to weaponize your experience to say, well, oh, you're experiencing hardship because you chose it. It's like, no, you don't know how to experience anything differently. So when I was depressed, I was in that loop. I was experiencing depression because I was just operating from depression. Right. And so I had to eventually sort of skip the tracks a little bit and try something different.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
What the heck were we talking about? Synchronicity?
Yeah.
How did I get here?
That's okay. It's a free form discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Synchronicity. Let's get back to synchronicity.
I like to skip the track thing. Sometimes
Yeah.
you gotta sort of jar yourself out of the loop that you're in, right?
Yeah, because, and it's great, I'm reading this book, In Service to Love, which I'm going to be reviewing soon, and the author, who is a channel for her guides, was talking about how when you are in the energy of a problem and you're trying to solve it from the same energy that the problem exists at, it's impossible.
So I'm going to stop you because I'm afraid I'll lose my train of thought.
Okay.
You speak a lot about energy, and you made mention of getting stuck in a loop, right? And I am slowly realizing that we all have our own independent energy, our own flavor of energy, and it ebbs and flows, and sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's not healthy. And, there's a lot of mental illness in our country that doesn't get addressed.
Yeah.
Some of it, I don't ever want to make light of it, right? Because we're all trapped up here in our head, right? There's no getting away from that. We're all prisoners in our own head.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, some folks really have a hell of a time with it. Others maybe just, I don't want to say a little because I don't want to make it sound trivial because it never is.
Right.
But for the folks who've really just been dealt a crummy hand, speaking from an energy standpoint, their energy, and maybe you don't know because maybe you haven't encountered anyone like this or ever been cognizant that they might be suffering from this. But if someone is really mentally in a bad spot, I hate to say crazy because it's such a derogatory term, but you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Very challenging in their life. Is their energy a non-healthy energy? I mean, can you relate their physical well-being to their energy's well-being? In other words, can you sort of like go, whenever I see that flavor or encounter that type of energy, it normally indicates someone is struggling with an issue mentally.
This veers into tricky territory where you veer into sort of judgment. So it's not to say anyone has bad or negative energy. It's just how are you relating to the energy that you're running? One of the things that my guides have kind of painstakingly taught me is that there's no such thing, emotions energy.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
Yeah. So there's no such thing as a negative emotion. It's just how are you relating to the emotion? Have you judged the emotion? Have you subjugated the emotion? Are you judging yourself for feeling anger? Or can you allow yourself to freely express it in a healthy way and then allow it to leave? So if you were to come across someone who's in the loop, and it definitely does affect your physical.
Yeah, because a lot of people are stuck in that depression loop or manic loop or worse yet, where they just can't make heads or tails out of anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's very individualized, first of all. But I can, speaking from my own experience of anxiety, let's just use anxiety. My own energy was unhealthy. It's not a good place to be in when you're stuck in the loop because you're operating from the same standpoint. You don't have any tools to get you out of it. You don't know, you may know how you got there, but how you got there isn't how you get out of it. And that whole thing, I guess you could say that it's unhealthy because it's not being freed. So it's stuck there. It's like stagnant water. It's like birthing tadpoles, mosquitoes and gross stuff, and that's not good. So when you're stuck in that loop,
you're in the swamp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're in swamp water. It's gross. Get out. I guess when you're stuck in that loop, the only thing that worked for me is instead of pretending like I wasn't in the swamp or punishing myself for being in the swamp, I sort of recognized that I'm standing in a swamp right now. I'm not the swamp, but for some reason I'm up to my knees in it. But I have knees, which are attached to shins, which probably have feet at the bottom of it. And maybe I wasn't always anxious. I'm not always anxious. Maybe it's possible to get out of the swamp. Just for a second. And what's outside of the swamp? Maybe I get out of the swamp and I immediately jump back in, but it's possible to get out of the swamp.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what it takes to sort of like jump that. But if you're someone who has like a serious mental health issue, what I always recommend first is get that 3D physical help first, because if your energy's in such a bad spot or you're running it, it's such a deeply ingrained pattern, you're going to need that support. You're going to need that physical 3D support. It's like, oh, you're having a heart attack right now.
Yeah.
Just work on the energy. No, don't work on the energy. Like, you need the support of a doctor who's going to physically get in there and disrupt the pattern.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you've got to give that its due, right? Because, I mean, we're obviously physical beings, right?
Yeah.
and you can't ignore the physicality of what we are.
Mm-mm.
And sometimes it could be, I don't want to say as simple as a deficiency of something, but could be, that whatever you're suffering through can be sorted out, mapped out through medication or just talking.
Mm-hmm.
You heard me say that helps me tremendously, and I don't even realize I need to talk, but
Yeah.
when I get around to doing it, I'm like, man, I feel so much better from that. So
Yeah.
I just wondered if it was if you could not just sense, but just see the energy differently, feel the energy differently from someone who's truly suffering mentally, that just, in that bad loop, and they're trying to skip the track to get it into a different spot.
The thing is a lot of us are in the loop.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So
different degrees too, right? I mean, we all got our little personal battles. No one really knows what's going on in someone else's head. And I think that even your closest of friends can really only share so much with you because we're still learning ourselves, whom we are, at least I am, as I go along. The person I am today probably won't be the person I am tomorrow. I mean, I'm operating between some parameters here. But I'm not always on the same ditto Xerox copy as I was the day before.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I just wondered if that ever came into play. I mean, what do you think of... So we all have our guides, our little troop, right? Our invisible troop behind
us. Your
us.
team, yeah.
Yeah, do they try and help along when someone's suffering like that? I mean, how much can they do? I mean, how much can they prop you up if you let them?
If you let them, a whole lot. When I was still trying to dig my way out of depression, there was one night where I was doing yoga, and for some, it was a hard day, and I was just like, it was maybe like 11:30 at night, and I'm just like laying on the yoga mat in corpse pose, and I'm just like exhausted.
My favorite pose.
Yeah, right. It's the easiest. It's the nicest. You just get to sink into the ground, and a song had come up on my playlist that I know wasn't on my playlist, and it was Dear Prudence by the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's
a clothes shop in downtown Northville. Just throwing that out there.
But I'm talking about the Beatles song.
Yeah, I got you.
And then a bird started singing outside of my window. And I lived in a part of Nashville that birds didn't want to be in. It was a crappy part of town.
Yeah. No, I know where it was.
Yeah, and but it was just beautiful, and I'm like, it's pitch black outside. There's no reason a bird should be in front of my window singing.
Yeah.
There's no reason Dear Prudence should be playing. And you know the lyrics of Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Dear Prudence, greet the brand new day. Mm-hmm. And it made me bawl. Like, that was one of those, like, moments where I was like, everything doesn't have to suck. Confirmation, life isn't meant to suck.
Okay.
My guides are there for me.
Synchronicity, a little bit?
I consider that to be synchronicity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so your guides,
timing.
If you let them, if you're open to it, they do step up for you. I also did have, I told you guys about that little sun that appeared in my room. I was reading. I was in bed and I was reading. I'm wide awake. And I'm like, the book I'm reading is making me laugh. And I look up because there's like this light in my room that does not belong there. It's pitch black outside. And I look at it and it feels so joyful and so happy. And the more I look at it, it looks like a contained sunbeam. Like, it's not creating shadows or anything, but it's just light where it doesn't belong. And I'm like, how can that be there? And as soon as I asked, how can it be there? Then it started going away because my brain started, like, making it go, like, oh, this isn't part of 3D reality. Yeah, exactly. Sure. But that was a guide as well. And that was the one saying, like, if you allow yourself to experience these other higher emotions, these better feeling emotions, which are available to you at any moment, other good feelings are available to you.
So we're talking back like before you really realized.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
that you had more going on. So I mean, you must have been very open unknowingly.
Yes.
To a lot of this.
Yeah.
Or else that probably wouldn't have happened as easily as it did, or as vividly, right? I mean, as obvious.
Maybe not. I wouldn't say, if I was someone who believed this to be ridiculous and impossible, and it would have probably been harder for it to happen.
Yeah.
You do have to be open to it to some degree, or else you're just not going to recognize it when it comes to you.
Right.
You're going to brush it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, recognizing something is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there could be, maybe this is like a cautionary type thing, but someone wants it too bad, and maybe their imagination is getting away from them.
Yeah.
You know?
So going back to energy, the energy of your intention wanting something means that you don't have it. That's the energy of want. Mm-hmm. So when I really want to connect with my guides, I want it, it enforces the idea that you're not already connected with your guides, that you can't already hear them, that they're not already communicating with you, and you're opening up this space for maybe someone to pretend to be your guide and come into contact with you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And maybe lead you astray because you want it so bad that you'll let it be anything. It's like, well, your guides are already here and they're communicating to ways in you that make you feel good, and it's sort of like, I call them like little treats along your path. Be like, ooh, wasn't that yummy? Keep going.
Sure. Yeah. Breadcrumb you.
Exactly.
Down the path.
So it is possible to sort of, if you want something so bad, you can kind of not necessarily create an experience that isn't real, but perhaps create an experience that isn't necessarily in your highest alignment.
When I've asked you to sort of tune into me a little bit and share with me some of the folks that have been around me, mm-hmm. There were a couple that made me feel surprised. Like my grandfather, Diddy. Mm-hmm. That was my grandfather's name. I can't tell you why we called him that growing up, but that was it. Maybe it was Croatian for grandfather. I don't know. Never asked. I guess I could. That he was around and he appreciated my work that I did. Mm-hmm. And he was the kind of guy that just worked tirelessly during World War II. With the Willow Run assembly plant, the Kelsey Hayes plant, which supported Willow Run, and just worked tremendous hours, and he slept there.
Did he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He'd slept there for days on end.
Wow.
To get whatever in the world they were doing, I couldn't tell you. And I only remember bits and pieces of him. I wasn't alive very long for his time that he was here on Earth. Maybe 3.5, 4 years old, something like that. So just little 10-second flickers of film is all I got in my head of him.
Yeah.
But enough that I recognize him, and I feel a certain amount of support. I do think of that during my workday. Not all the time. Weeks could go by without me thinking about it, but it does pop through my head, and there is a lot of comfort in that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what in the world he's doing, or if he's trying to nudge me into a certain direction, or just wants to be a spectator, and see how I got it done versus how he got it done. I don't know, but it was nice knowing that I had some support. It's just like if you were to talk to a friend or mom or dad or your brother or whatever, and they share with you that they were thinking about you today. Mm-hmm. For this guy, that means a lot. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily seek it out, but when it's shared with me, I kind of go, well, that was damn nice of someone to do that, So the concept of having a cheerleading team behind you, trying to do their best to help you in whatever they think you might need help with, is kind of neat, So I think there's a lot of comfort in learning, the mediumship that you have to offer. I think that it's uplifting, it's supporting, it gives you another leg to stand on in this life, which is hard enough on its own. Because what do we know about what's on the other side? We know a little bit here and there, and it can be confusing at many times. I was raised as a Catholic. I'm confused as hell about that till this day. I would like to think at this point in my life I've got that all sorted out, and it's just as far from that as can possibly be. And, as I'm exposed and learn things outside of the Catholic faith, I'm discovering it's not evil, it's not bad. It's different from what I was taught, but that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just that. It's different, Mm-hmm. So, as I'm sorting through that, it felt good to know that maybe my grandfather that I haven't seen in 45 years plus was looking out for me, or my dad was hanging around a little bit, It was kind of cool, because even as you grow up and, you're a strong woman or a strong man or any of that crap that we assign to, we all need a little
support.
A little hug, a little support,
Absolutely.
So now I think that folks can really benefit from that, just realizing that it's there, and if you can learn how to do it yourself, even the better.
Exactly. It's almost invaluable to be in touch with your spirit team. And your spirit team isn't like you and 4 other people. It's you and hundreds of people.
Crazy, right?
It's a vast support
it's just
system
amazing.
you.
Just wow. Why in the world would 100 people have any interest in me? That's kind of like where I'm at in my head sometimes. I'm like, what? If I had 100 candy bars to pass out to friends, I'm eating like 89 of them myself. I don't know that many people.
Yeah.
That I can consider friends. I mean, true friends, not just people I know.
Yeah. The way I like to liken it is anyone who's on Earth right now, it's like your boots on the ground, and everyone else is like air support. And
nice.
It is.
Nice description.
Yeah, and you call them in when you're like, I don't know what the hell to do with this. I need a solution.
So
I need an out.
Why do you think that is? Why do we require so much behind the scenes support? What the hell is going on that we're navigating here?
I like to joke and say that Earth is kind of like a prison planet.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what I'm alluding to.
Yeah. It's not. Earth was intended to be a playground. But we have descended, and no judgment, so far into physicality that we have kind of forgotten where we come from. We've identified so closely with our physical form that we no longer identify ourselves as anything other than that. When we die, we think that we return to dust. We think that we become nothing. In Judaism, that's a prevailing thought. In Buddhism, that's a prevailing thought as well. A lot of the times people think that we have to bury our bodies so that when God comes and calls us back, we still have a body to go with him.
Sure.
That's how attached we are to our identity as a body. And that's no judgment. If that's your thought process, if that's what you like, then throw out what I'm about to say. But that's what we have forgotten, that we're not our bodies, that everything is energy, that we as consciousness are just a form of energy. And that makes life here kind of hard. That makes it a little dense. It's what creates things like war and separation and duality. That's not easy to clean up. Yeah. So basically everyone here all of us on some level are healers. All of us on some level, we're really kind of advanced souls who are here to kind of like clean up 3D reality, make it easier and lighter to breathe in. And it's not easy, because not only are you dealing with your own stuff, but because we're all connected, we're all dealing with each other's stuff. Like, to bring racism back into it, we're all dealing, like, white people have to deal with racism.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
Black people are on the receiving end of it, and that's a problem. So it's like all of our problems compound on each other, and it's hard. And so when you're here and you're like, okay, I'm gonna fulfill my custodian role, I'm gonna start cleaning stuff up, it's impossible to take it all on yourself. So that's why we have such a vast support team, because we need it.
Yeah, I mean, I follow what you're saying there. I do. It feels as if though that's a piece of the story, Yeah. And there's still a whole heck of a lot more.
And of course, you have your own things that you came here to accomplish, and that requires work as well, because of all the reasons that I stated before. You might have false identities of yourself, because that's really easy to do, because we lose sight of who we are. We identify as what people tell us who we are, or who we think we need to be to get through something, and that requires help. But basically, it's just to forget where you come from, to think that you've just popped into existence by accident. Like, that's disorienting. That in and of itself is disorienting,
Well, when you told me my little team that's behind me there, and there's a piece of me that kind of goes, well, what are you guys here for? Because I'm good. I mean, honestly, what I wanted out of life, I've already done. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have children. I wanted a 3-bedroom brick ranch. Humble type stuff, I thought, And I've done all that and loved all of it, and would do it again in a heartbeat if I could. Loved it when you guys were young. I mean, I knew those were good times. Yeah. I knew they were good times then.
Yeah.
I didn't need the lens of years looking back going, wow, those were good times. I'm like, hell no. I know that I'm in my stride right now. I mean, this is my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like, folks, move along. You know what I mean? I'm done. Yeah. You're wasting your time on me. Others need your help. I'm done. I'm good. But then I hear that, and there's a piece of me that goes, well, maybe I'm not. And that's just what I think I am, and I've got some larger things that lie ahead of me that I may never realize, but I'm actually accomplishing. Maybe our existence at times is an important piece for other people's lives.
Yes.
Right? And you don't know it, but you just being you is very beneficial, very complimentary to someone that's close to you. Am I onto something?
You're onto something. This is what I talk about when we talk about your purpose. And, like,
Okay.
your purpose is not a career. It is the...
No, yeah.
It's
yeah,
the
I agree.
whole picture of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you think that you've checked all your boxes off, like, you're not dead yet, therefore you gave
Monty
yourself
Python
more to do.
drop right there.
Yeah.
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 Throwing that out there.
Yeah. I'm not dead yet, and it's on purpose.
Cowbell.
Yeah, exactly. You're here for a reason, and you're not done. And that's the thing about a purpose, is that once you feel as if you have completed it, it's you're ready for expansion. So you've never really fully, completely reached your purpose. You might have reached one level of it and mastered it, and then you may be ready to incorporate more.
Okay.
So until
down with
you're
that.
dead, you're not done. That's, I always say.
So, I almost feel, not to belittle my life, but I feel as if though when I die, right, which is inevitable for all of us, that it's sort of like, watch me now, man. Now I'm in my sports car. Right? Now I can really stick my foot in this crap and get through it here in a damn hurry, because I'm not bound by these chains and weights that are around me all the time.
Yeah. Do you mean like in growth?
All of that, yeah, and growth, and just whatever's on the other side. I feel as if though I'm just going to have a lot more ability to handle whatever's on the other side. Can't tell you why I feel like that.
Well,
but
there's
I
limitation that comes with the physical form.
Oh,
and
for sure.
That is part of what comes from it. But also, we choose these lives because it offers such opportunity for growth, that when we finally do release our identification with just the form, we bring back that perspective and we bring back that learning. And just as the universe is ever expanding, our own individual experiences are meant to expand as well. So that is why we do it. And I totally get that. The idea that for the longest time before I went into mediumship, I felt like I had like a bubble over my head or something, where I'm like, I need to poke beyond this bubble because it's driving me nuts.
Okay.
And I had a medium, a teacher of mine, she'd be like, yeah, you're forgetting because you've descended into 3D consciousness. And I'm like, it's driving me crazy. Can I get rid of that? And she's like, well, I mean, it's part of this. And I'm like, I don't want it. And she's like, well, keep doing this. And, so I totally get the idea that, like, there's more to do, or at least more to do more quickly,
So, in case people didn't hear the first Dadcast.
Yeah.
I'm really big into the UFO thing. Love it. The Bigfoots, on the fence with mermaids, oddly enough.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. That's, for some reason, that's a bridge too far for me. Right? I got everything else is in my wheelhouse, but mermaids,
okay,
I'm like,
but
that's
mermaids.
crazy. Yeah, so out of all the crazy stuff that I expose you to, you got to pick one as being probably real, like it's really happening.
Yeah.
Right. Ghosts, I'm going to give you as a check. Yes, that's a yes. Right.
Yes.
A lot of people debate that. Right. So we're past that.
Yeah.
Okay. So which one is probably real?
Aliens are a thing.
Yeah.
Aliens are a thing.
So would love to see a UFO. Maybe I did. Oh, you know what? I think I did once.
You do?
Yeah. I'll share the quick little story with you. Yeah. So back in I was in junior high, so like 9th grade.
Yeah.
My buddies were over, Mike and Jerry, and it was a summer evening, and we decided to walk down to the party store.
I've never heard this story.
Yeah, I know. Well,
did you just pull it out of the vault?
Just fell out, right?
Oh my god.
So we're walking along, and it was a very star-filled
Wait, this
night.
is Jerry? Jerry?
Jerry, yeah.
Oh
Jerry.
man,
yeah.
he's so
yeah, my old buddy.
cruel to Jerry.
Yeah, my old buddy.
Yeah.
Lordy. And we're walking along, and for some reason, we just noticed there's a lot of stars out.
Yeah.
And Mike looks up and he points up and he goes, "Look at that star." And I don't ask me how, but I'm fairly certain I landed on the same star he was pointing at.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Doesn't that one look out of place?" And I thought it was a dumb thing to say because it was a night where there was like hundreds of stars in the sky.
You never see that many stars.
It was just one of those nights, right?
Yeah.
In my mind's eye, how I remember it. And we're looking at the star, all three of us, and we're like, yeah, that does seem kind of weird. And out of the blue, it breaks into 3 different points of light.
What?
I mean, the snap of the fingers. But those 3 points of light never move again.
Really?
They just stay right there. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, that's the story. Boom,
that's
done.
Cool.
Right? Yeah. I think we freaked out and ran to 7-Eleven and laughed about it. but remembered it, you know. So maybe that was
yeah.
something, obviously, right? Not normal.
No, I would say, and a lot of the times when you have a UFO experience, it's because, I'm going to drop something on you. There's this concept in the New Age community called a starseed, meaning you've had many, many lifetimes before this human lifetime as someone who was not human. You've had lives on other playgrounds, not just Earth.
Huh.
And so when you have a UFO experience, you're probably one of those souls who probably most recently had a non-human lifetime.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. And I would say you probably fit the profile of someone like that, of who's had a lot of non-human lifetimes.
Really? No?
Yeah.
No kidding, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Non-human meaning alien.
Meaning alien, yeah. If you want to get technical about it,
Well,
there's oh man, this is a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Or this is a wormhole. Yeah.
Yeah. Space, right? Yeah, go wormhole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That, of course, you're gonna have people be like, I had a UFO experience and I was abducted. And I'm not saying that's not a valid experience. It probably is, but that freaks me out.
So my Uncle Tony.
Oh, Uncle Tony, the guy who looks like he herds sheep.
Yeah. That's him. He lived in a part of town in Pittsburgh that was very rural, and his home was set far away from other homes. Did he
actually have sheep?
No, not that I'm aware of. His telephone was a payphone.
No.
Right hand to God.
Shut up.
So when you had to call Uncle Tony, it was so outside of the window here is a street light, not far away. What is it? Maybe 30 feet away, 50 feet away. There would be a phone booth under the light, and it took incoming calls.
Oh my God.
Some payphones used to do that. Maybe all of them did, but I only remember a few of them that would. So when you called Uncle Tony, you had to let the phone ring like 40 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because he'd have to hear it and then get to it, right?
You would have to leave your house
to answer the phone.
Okay.
Honest to goodness, yeah. And there was no real reason for the phone booth to be there because there wasn't anything else around except Uncle Tony. But
aliens.
There it was, you know?
Yeah.
So he told this story at one of our family gatherings / dinners. And, you know, no one really gave him a fair shake because he really did a lot of odd things, you know.
Yeah.
So he kind of had the crazy
Every family's got an
thread.
Uncle Tony. Yeah.
And he claimed that he was in the phone booth, and when he was in the phone booth...
Oh, it's a phone booth.
A phone booth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a Superman kind of phone booth.
Bingo. Exactly right. That something had hovered overhead just above the light and had shot a beam down or made some sort of connection.
Shut the front door.
Yep, with the light, and it was sucking energy out of it. And he just remembers a lot of disorienting lights and weird sounds and just the atmosphere feeling different.
Yeah. Did he lose any time?
I don't remember that. Yeah.
So it was sucking the energy out of the lamp, the light?
Yeah, electricity.
Okay.
Tapping in, so to speak, I'm guessing.
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he related,
Yeah.
And he told this, and passionately in front of the family. So it wasn't anything that he didn't believe happened. I mean, he was all in with this happened to me,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the Uncle Tony UFO story there for everyone.
That's interesting. I wonder why they would need to suck energy from the lamp.
Who knows?
Why do I keep saying
Street
that?
light.
Street light. Yeah.
No clue. Yeah, and maybe he got the story wrong, what it was doing or what happened to him. Who knows? Because I'm familiar with the missing time phenomenon thing as well. And for all you out there that don't know what that is, a lot of folks claim that they have a UFO experience, that it's sort of like, well, I made a Hot Pocket, I put it down, and I know it was noon because I was getting ready to watch my show. The next thing I know, I'm in my chair, but now it's 1:30, and my Hot Pocket is ice cold, and I have no idea where the last hour and a half went.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll go to hypnosis, and as they regress in their mind, they discover that, well, the reason your Hot Pocket got cold is because you got captured and, we're busy for an hour and a half, and they, hit the erase button on you and then planted you back down where you were.
Yeah.
And, here you are now to deal with that.
So I believe Uncle Tony because what a perfect scene for an alien encounter.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a spooky setting, no matter the best of circumstances it was on. Yeah, the whole setup was a strange deal.
Yeah.
As I remember, he only lived in I think it was just the basement of the house.
Didn't he have the entire house?
Big home. Yeah,
and
really
he
big.
only lived in the basement of it?
Yeah, the furnace was down there, so it was a supply of heat, and he didn't have a lot of money. you know, type deal. Again, I was a young little brat that really didn't pay attention to those finer details of life. I was too busy trying to figure out how to throw a rock at a squirrel, you know, as opposed to what's happening with Uncle Tony. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's what happened to him and my little story about the lights in the sky. Yeah. So, okay, you're all in. Yeah. And for me with the UFO thing, the preponderance of evidence is just, at some point, you just have to say, and everyone goes, well, they just landed on the White House lawn. Okay, so that hasn't happened, okay?
But why would
So what's the next thing? Well, if we could only get a picture of it or a video, you have that.
Yeah.
You have that.
You
Spend
keep
some
wanting
time looking
to
at
debunk it. If you just play the law of averages.
Absolutely.
In an
you don't need one.
infinite universe.
Yeah, you don't need one.
How is it possible that we're the only quote-unquote intelligent?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And if you come from this idea of frequency and energy and we don't see ghosts all the time, why is that? It's because they're not physical. Mm-hmm. So that comes... I don't normally use the term alien because I just talk about interdimensionals. And when you're operating from, let's say, a higher frequency of a fourth density or fifth density, you don't necessarily need a body. Everyone is just consciousness at the end of it. So if you identify as consciousness and you lighten your density enough to the point where you're like, I don't need to consistently hold form, then you can live and exist in places that don't need to, I guess, be an ideal condition for a physical form. So there could be, I'm not saying that there is life on Saturn, but there could be if you come from a different density of energy. So I think we keep looking for life to look like human, and it's not necessarily going to do that. We have to expand what our definition of life is in order for us to open our minds up to aliens. But on top of that, why would the aliens land on the White House lawn? We'd try and nuke it.
Yeah, it would be a bad landing spot.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah.
It wouldn't end well for the first encounter, that's for sure.
No. And people there's the Phoenix Lights. People have been having their own individual encounters for years. Yeah. Even just the conversation around aliens has been changing over the decades. Yeah, now you're not so crazy to be like, aliens probably exist just because we haven't found them yet. When this goes back to trying to solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. If you keep trying to find 3D aliens, you're probably going to have a harder time of it because you're just looking for other people at the same place as we are, and we're probably two ships passing in the night.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's we've got like 10 minutes left. Did you want to talk about
music? We burned through 50 minutes already?
We did, yeah.
Holy smokes. Well, I'm getting tired, so that's a good sign. Well,
we were talking about Highwayman and how that's reincarnation.
Oh, yeah, the tune Highwayman.
Yeah, we're talking about Glenn Campbell.
Love Glenn Campbell, Wrecking Crew, right, session player. And the reason we talked about Glenn Campbell was last Christmas, Mom and I got you an Otis Rush album. Yes. I think it was last Christmas.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know who Otis Rush is, figure him out, listen to him. Yeah, blues. Really, really just great.
It just ticks all the boxes. Can shred a guitar even though he's not shredding. He's killing it. He can make it cry. Yeah. And his voice, amazing. If he just had one or the other, he'd be incredible. But he's got both.
Great, yeah. But I picked the album up and
because
Dwayne
I
Allman.
had been looking for an Otis Rush album. I was ready to sell a kidney.
It took me years to find it. Yeah, not easy to find. Well, it ends up Dwayne Allman must be playing. He is playing guitar on the Otis Rush album, and Dwayne was a session player for a long time. And I had made mention that Glenn Campbell was a sessions player, the Wrecking Crew. Mm-hmm. And you guys know how much I love Glenn Campbell. And you brought up the Highwayman, which is I know the song. Yeah. But I am guilty as hell about listening to a song and knowing the words, but never bothering to understand the meaning. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's Glenn Campbell didn't write the song; he covered it, and that's what made it famous because he sings like an angel. But basically, it's just a song where a guy talks about a life, he dies, and he talks about, and I'll come back again and again and again and again. He's talking about reincarnation. Right. He does bring up the spaceship thing too.
Yeah, at the very end.
So I did think that was kind of weird.
Yeah, it's reincarnation. He goes through one life. He's like a highwayman. He is killed. He comes back as some guy who works on a dam. He dies, and then he comes back as something else. And then eventually he's just like, I'll go back to my spaceship. And for some reason, like, no one remarks around how weird this song is. Like, everyone's just like, what a great piece of songwriting. And it is a great piece of songwriting.
I never bothered.
But it's totally talking about reincarnation and aliens. Sure.
I'm so bad at it. I'll listen to a tune forever, and Mom will bring up the point of the song, and I'm like, will you quit ruining the music? Stop that. I don't want to have to think while I just want to enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, it's 100% reincarnation in Aliens. Straight up and down. The whole song.
I like it.
Yeah.
New favorite
and then
song.
actually, when I heard it the first time, I had to listen to it a couple times because I'm like, I think he's talking about, this is reincarnation. Glenn Campbell is singing about reincarnation. And it was to the point where I'm like, do they know that they're talking about reincarnation? You know? It was one of those things where I'm like, this had to be channeled. This had to be one of these things where it's one of those songs that you write in like 10 minutes.
Well, I totally buy into the concept of an artist, be it a musician, a composer, painter, that on the occasion, if they're lucky, something will stream through them that they can't even explain themselves, that they are just a conduit for that moment. And it just is
that's frequency,
unworldly.
That's resonance,
there
that's you. This is channeling. This is you tuning yourself to a frequency, to an energy that is in alignment with what you create.
So do you think if you're an artist, let's say you're a painter, you're an oil painter, do you think if you were to make an effort maybe to meditate, to refine that energy, to seek that energy while you're doing your hobby or profession, your passion, do you think there's room for improvement if you were to be able to connect with that and realize that energy and bring it in, and coax it and coming in at the moment when you're creating the piece of art?
It could probably be something that's like less of a blue moon occurrence.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more that you do meditate, the more that you allow yourself to take the observer position, you're going to open yourself up to inspiration because there's going to be space for it. You're creating space in your head for something else to happen than what your ego is creating. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So another little side benefit, you could say. Really not even a side benefit. I mean, that's a pretty big one.
Even if you're someone who doesn't consider yourself to be creative, inspiration strikes in. A lot of the times I will have people come to me for advice and I won't necessarily have direct experience in what they're talking about. But if I just talk to them and I'll just give them, it's like someone hit the back of my head and words fell out of my mouth. And I'm just like, oh, these were for you. You know?
Yeah.
That's channeling. Right. You know? That's the flow state. Yeah.
So I've heard you say a few times when people, they like to connect with folks that have just passed through. And that's a difficult task for you because, and I've heard you say it, and when we pass, we're busy.
Yeah.
So really not available for comment for a period of time.
Yes.
Why is that? What the hell are we doing?
So there's a bit of an offboarding process, you could say.
Yeah. Animals
are like, oh, okay, we're done with the body. Let's move on, because they never really lose their identification with their not body. But humans, we, especially if you're deep into a religion, you have to move through the process of maybe I believe I'm going to hell, you know, and so you have to work through that. And you also have to work through the idea that, oh, I am dead. And you have to work through the idea of, well, what did I do in this lifetime? There's also a life review process. And that takes time to acclimate yourself to it. It can be instantaneous from a singularity standpoint, but from an earth standpoint, we work in time. Oh. And that's just a tool that we use. And also, it is a little hard to connect when you're stuck in grief. So it's a little bit of a cooling off process for everyone. You know,
sure.
People, especially if someone was an addict or if someone killed themselves. By the way, if you have a loved one who killed themselves, they're not going to hell. Just getting that out of the way. No one goes to hell unless they really truly believe that they need that experience, but they can leave it at any moment, at any second. No one's stuck there. No one burns in hellfire. But if you are going through an addiction process, there's still something about you that's like working through addiction, and you also have to go. It's sort of like a 21-step program. Okay, you know, gotcha. It's just a physical addiction is just a physical manifestation of an energetic.
What if everything's fine though? You're a well-centered person. It's just the end of your life. Are you still kind of tied up for a while?
You don't necessarily. Yeah, I mean, it's 6 months is just a good estimate of how long it could take. If you're someone who's like killing it, if you're like the Dalai Lama, you're like, okay, we're done.
Next step.
Yeah. Then you could, if you're an ascended master, if you've mastered this lifetime, it could be instantaneous. But generally it's not, you know. Okay. Generally it just takes a little bit of time. So I have connected with people who have died like 2 weeks before, and normally what happens is they have a proxy come in for them, be like, I'll act as a go-between because this person is still is remembering how to not be human, and then as soon as they figure that out, it's going to be easier to communicate with you. But I've been around the block before. I know how to communicate with this person who's just passed.
So you're passing the note in the classroom, basically, right?
Essentially,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be damned. All right, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I like to know that there's a sort of an onboarding process, offboarding and onboarding.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the syllabus. This is how we're gonna.
And there's also the life review process, which you were sort of talking about that you do, which you can also do before you die, and you do it. You do your life review You can do your life review process while you're alive, and you talk about how you do it. But a lot of us don't do that, and so we have a lot. And it's not a judgment process. It's just you're taking stock of what lessons did I learn, what lessons did I not get to hit, what did I not fully absorb, and you go through that. And then it's like once that is done, you're like, well, what do I want to do now? Do I want to be a guide? Do I want to do something else? Do I want to, and a lot of the times you understand that you're so much bigger than what you thought you were. You're part of something more. And so it's not always like someone is also you're someone more. Mm-hmm. So to your past loved one, they never left you because you're still in spirit. You still exist in spirit. Right. You know, so they're still with you, but you don't recognize them as that because from your perspective, if someone doesn't exist in the 3D form, then they don't exist. So it's not as if they don't miss you, it's because they're still with you. So it's just it's just an adjustment period,
Oh, okay.
So the more time you give them to acclimate, the easier it is to connect with them, and the more likely it is that you'll be able to connect with them.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I mean, because that's a popular thing, right? I'm assuming that most people went. I get it.
Yeah.
Someone very close to me left, passed away, and I wasn't ready for them to leave, or was very protective of them. You're damn well right. I don't want to know to make sure they're okay.
They are.
And if not, what can I do to help?
Yeah, they always are.
So they always are. Interesting. Huh?
Yeah, there are some people who choose to stay, but no one's stuck. You can leave at any time. And there are guides out there who are specifically tasked with bringing home lost lambs, so to say. And there's at any point in time, anyone can go home. Always. Always open. No one's trapped. No one's stuck in judgment unless they're judging themselves.
Yeah, we got a lot of parameters here on Earth.
And if you do, for some reason, if you're convinced that my past loved one is stuck, just pray for them. And that will actually move them on.
Good intentions, though.
Yeah. We've got 20 seconds left.
20 seconds. Taylor Swift or Katy Perry?
Taylor Swift.
T Swift, huh?
Yeah, it's the songwriting.
Okay. So.
What about you?
If it's not for me?
Yeah.
You gotta give me give me something. What am I going with?
You got 6 seconds.
6 seconds. Okay.
It's Taylor Swift, isn't it?
Yeah, it's T Swift. Yeah, Taylor's very good.
She is.
Yeah, she's great.
All right. That's it.
All right, gang.
We're done.
God bless.
All right. We'll
see you
later.
Episode 3.